Hello there, and thanks for joining me once again at my bench. And this time around I want to get back to an old classic wet fly pattern for you. And this is the Professor. I'm pretty sure you're familiar with it and have seen it tied, but I thought I'd share it with you this time around. And there may be someone there that hasn't tied it yet and they can give this one a go. It's a good old attractive wet fly pattern that still works today for sure. So we'll get this guy the vise here, and I'll get a fresh hook in and get it going for you. And like always, I'm using my 3399 mustad wet fly hook and a size 10 here. We'll get that locked down. Alrighty, that looks good there. Okay, so first I'm starting with a white thread, then we'll switch to black. That way the yellow floss body will stay yellow once it gets wet. It won't darken up so much. So we'll start a hook eye length behind and wrap our thread base back here. Okay. I'll snip off the tag end of thread there. Okay. Now we'll just wrap back a little bit ways here farther towards the barb and stop our thread right in front. And the tail is simply red hackle fibers, and I have some red saddle hackle fibers here, a little bit webby ones. I like to use the ones on the lower portion that are a little bit webby for the wet flies. And I keep it fairly sparse, not too thick of a tail. And we'll measure that up so it's about hook shank length, and tie that on top with a pinch loop, just like so here. Wrap forward a couple wraps, and there's our tail. And I'll snip that about body length, where I'm going to stop the body on this particular fly. Okay, next is the rib, and it's some small gold mallard tinsel, flat tinsel. So I'm going to catch that in here on the far side, gold side down. Make one wrap to hold it. Then I'm just going to pull it to length. Same length as the tail fibers where I trimmed them is where I want it. That's fine. And we'll make a couple wraps back, rearward. Stick that in the good old material clip there. And our next is our body. And I have about a 6-7 inch piece of yellow single strand uni floss here. Now bring that up around and catch it in on my side this time. Same deal, I'll pull that to the same length as the other two materials. And we'll hold everything up here, and I'm going to wrap back a few more wraps towards the barb so that we're pretty much over top of it. Then we're going to proceed to wrap all these materials down forward on the shank. And as I wrap forward, I'm going to spin my bobbin periodically so it counterclockwise, so it flattens the thread out there and helps smooth out the base for the floss to be wrapped, like so. And I'll spin it again here, and I just slide it down my fingers as it's spinning. It helps flatten it out. And we'll make a few more wraps. Try to keep the materials on top of the shank. Spin it once again here, and a few more wraps. Whoops. Okay, back that off and start again. Wrap forward, and one more spin should do it for us. And we'll bind the rest of that down here. Okay, folks, that's fine. Alrighty, so now the floss, I'm going to bring that around to the far side, and I'm going to pull that floss with my fingers and try to, I want to get even tension on that first wrap as I come around. If you do that, it'll keep it from fraying on you. And that can be a pain, as we know, with floss. Check that, that looks fine. I'm just going to leave my vise on the side as I wrap. Just find that a little easier for me to see what's going on there. And you want to slightly overlap your wraps as you go. Just keeps it nice and smooth. just like so there. Now I can turn it back up. And we want about one more wrap and come up, and I'll tie that off. Take a couple wraps around, just bring my bobbin up around, and keep good tension on the thread. And we'll make 3 or 4 more good snug wraps and trim that off. And I got a couple straight fibers there. There we go. Alright, we'll lock that down. Okay. Next is the rib. And we'll bring that down around, and we want about usually 5 or 6 wraps, evenly spaced wraps there as we go up. Just like so. Okay, that looks fine. We'll come up around. Next turn we'll be tying it off. Okay, a couple wraps forward. Okay, and then I'm going to fold it back to lock it in place. Then we'll come in and trim off our excess tinsel. Okay folks, so now I'm just going to smooth that base of thread out there a little. Get ready to tie in our throat. Now it's brown hackle for the professor here on the throat. So I have some a nice soft webby saddle hackle. It's more or less a slopping feather, but it was in. You usually get slopping with the saddle hackle if you buy the strung stuff. And I'm just going to pull the amount off, not a large amount, but a medium amount. I'd say 20-25 fibers, like so. And we're going to bring that underneath. I want that to come back to about the barb, so then we'll pinch it. Bring the thread up between my fingers. 2 or 3 wraps to secure that in place. Just like so. Snug it down. And there's the throat. And I'll come in. Ever so careful. I'll take my finger there and hold my thread back out of the way. I don't want to cut my thread. Okay. So now we'll bind that down and get a smooth thread base again for our wing. Before I do, which I should have done, I have a habit of doing that sometimes. It's not switching to my black thread when I should. Sorry about that, folks. But we can switch it up now. It's no big deal. It's gonna back a few thread wraps off there, and we'll switch it up because it calls for a black head. So just gonna come around, tie that off, catch it in, and we'll trim that off. Okay. Alrighty. So now we're ready for our wing, folks. Get a nice base here. Okay. And the wing is gray mallard flank fibers, and one of the easiest ways to do a wing, I find, is if you just get a mallard flank feather like I have here, and just pull a decent, about a medium size amount off, and try to just preen them with your fingers so you get them to come out straight like so. Then what you do is just give them a quick pull off the feather itself. And there's what we have there. About that amount. It's about a little bit more than the hook gap. Then what I'll do is just place them on top, measure it about halfway down the tail, and then I'm just going to take my fingers and sort of fold them. And then tie them in with a pinch wrap. And come up, pull straight up. We'll see how that looks. And if we like how that results, we'll keep it where it is. Let's see what we got here. That looks pretty good, folks. It's pretty much right on top where we want it. And in about the center of the tail, so that's fine. So I'm going to make a couple more tight wraps there to lock it in place, snug it down. Now I'll come in and snip that off. Nice and close there, like so. Okay, so that looks fine. Okay. Just making sure that's right on top. That looks good. Alrighty. Okay, so I'm going to my thread to the eye here, and then work back towards the wing to build the head up here. Just build that up a little. Okay. Next is our whip finish. And I'm going to bring it back and then take my whip finisher, and I'm going to spin that thread once again to get a smooth thread to do our whip finish. Just gives you a smoother looking head once you put the lacquer whip head cement on. Okay, so we'll bring that up around, and we'll get 4 or 5 wraps towards the eye here. Come underneath, snug that down tight, and I'll use my whip finisher with the little blade here to cut our excess thread. And there we have it, folks. Another size 10 Professor. Another good old classic wet fly pattern for sure. And it still produces today, like a lot of the old classic wet flies. Alrighty, so next I'm going to put a little coat of head cement on them around those thread wraps. Okay, just going to work my way around here, and I need a little drop more. There we go. There we go, folks. So I hope you, if you haven't already tied this fly before, I hope you tie some of these up and add them to your box for sure. It's a good old pattern. And I want to mention, if you haven't subscribed to my channel yet and you like seeing these type of flies and others as well, hit that good old subscribe button there. Appreciate that. And if you have any comments, put them down below and I'll read them if you have any suggestions and whatnot. So until next time, folks, I want to wish you all happy tying out there, and I'll see you again soon, and so long for now.